Since having done my first duologue and the assessments that followed that and the different workshops that followed that, and from the feedback I've received from my lecturers, something that I need to look upon to do is to take a lot more risks. Just going back to my first vlog, I pretty much explored my fears in improvising and letting go and going with the flow, and I think since then there has been a certain element of improvement from me, and I feel it within myself that I am a little more open. I know the people in the class are a lot better, but regardless of that, within myself I feel that there's an openness and more of a willingness to sort of just try and you know, if I make a fool out of myself, I make a fool out of myself. If I don't, I don't. And I think a lot of that is also down to the different activities that I actually spoke about and using them in class and using them in my personal life in order to better myself as an actor. And I think there is still a lot of room for further improvement, but there is definitely something there. However, something I now need to start doing is taking risks, and risks involving and within my characters and the given circumstances, the objectives and counter objectives. I feel like if I'm in total trust of the character that I'm being or playing or portraying, and if I do the work behind the scenes, as it were, and sit down and really figure out who this character is, then I'm a lot more likely to feel free to take all sorts of risks with them, because they will feel right and they will just come naturally. And one way of doing this that's really good that we just quite recently learned actually is actioning. And actions are basically just verbs. There's a book written by Nick Mosley actually that's called Actioning and How to Do It, and it's just a thesaurus of doing words, of verbs. And examples of these would be: I challenge you, I attack you, I soothe you, I distract you, I encourage you, I discourage you. And it's basically going through every line that you may have on a script and trying to figure out what it is exactly that with that line you're trying to do to your scene partner. And especially in doing duologues, this was really helpful. And it was really helpful because it forced me to sit there and think, well, how can I show what I'm wanting to do to you without saying, I want to distract you, I want to attack you, I want to love you, I want to listen to you. How do I do that without necessarily moving my entire body, but maybe just by a few facial expressions or a few changes in my body language and voice, which is one of the most important ones. How can I portray a certain emotion that this character is feeling with this line? And then it becomes really interesting, because the more you do it, the more you start to drill down into this character, and you start on a really basic sort of level of, you know, this is what I do to you, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, I drilled down and actually this is what I'm doing. And that becomes really interesting it becomes interesting for you as the actor, because it's like, wow, I'm finding out so much that seemed so far away, and how did I get here? But then it also, I guess, gives you a lot of space to create a moment, to create a very impactful scene, to say something slightly differently that will make someone go, whoa, that was so subtle, but there was something there. I feel like a combination of actioning and the Meisner technique would be something that would be really useful for me in terms of getting to a stage where I am taking a lot of risks with characters that I'm portraying. the Meisner approach is basically, it's to get the actor to get out of their heads, and this is by allowing them to just behave instinctively to their surrounding environments. So we did a workshop on Meisner that I found really, really helpful. And what it was, again, in partnership, you have a sentence, and you just, off the bat, no preempted thoughts, no thinking about how you're going to say it. You just have this sentence and you just say it however it feels and naturally comes out to you. And then whoever you are with will then say the same sentence, but in reaction to how you said it. So it would be the same sentence, but corresponding to the tone, the intensity that you give them. And I think this is really helpful because, one, it does, like, the method is about, gets you out of your head. It allows you to react instinctively to what you're surrounded by, to what information you're being given and fed. And I think it's really useful because it allows you to explore so many different levels of intensity and so many different emotions, and what are the right ones, what are the wrong ones, and what was it about the way your partner said it that allowed you to react like that. However, there is one thing about the Meisner approach, which is that it's got a greater focus on the actor as opposed to the internal thoughts or feelings associated to the character. But I feel like I can use the technique in a way that I can combine it with actioning, so that actually allows me to explore a variety of emotions of a character and the feelings of a character, rather than myself, or rather than just wholly instinctively. In terms of the duologue, however, I think it was definitely lacking, especially when it came down to the assessment day. And it's probably quite simply because there wasn't enough of this research put into it. I didn't take enough risks, and I got too comfortable with the repetitive nature of the actual duologue, and allowed myself to take a back seat when really I could have played around with it so much more. And I feel that if I take this on board and really go for it, I could probably make a lot more interesting decisions and could have made some more interesting decisions. And not interesting just for me, but for the audience, for my scene partner, for Pam, as it was the duologue between her and Len in the second scene of Edward Bond Saved. And I could have really lifted those words off the page and brought a lot more life to them than I did. And looking back now, if this was something that I should have really kicked myself up the arse about to do, because it's a method that I know is going to work for me, and had I just fought to find it sooner, I think I would have been able to sit here and say that I was happy with the day of the assessment and that I was happy with what I created, but it just is not true. And so I think, taking risks, I take that on board, and I think I've found a way, within using a combination of the Meisner effect and actioning to help me, but also taking a lot more initiative in doing this on my own without having to be told, and really putting the extra work in to bring life to these characters and to bring life to these words that are just seemingly words on the page, because they're a lot more than that. And yeah.